Okay. Hey, I'm Slash, and you're watching Rock and Roll Radio. I didn't expect the success. I didn't know what to expect. I was just sort of having a good time making the record, and I didn't sort of have any goals for what it was supposed to achieve. And then, it came out, and it just instantly, everybody jumped on it, which was, very flattering. And I think it's a good record, especially for a rock and roll record these days. I think it's a very sort of pure record, and great performances from all the different artists that are on it. So it's nice that it got recognized as being something that people liked. And I guess it's also good too because my fucking name is on it, in big letters. I think somewhere along the way with Velvet Revolver and Scott and different issues, management, whatever, it was so much insanity around that band that when we finally came to terms with parting ways with Scott and all that happened, I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what, I really just need to do something on my own. And that was it. I just wanted to sort of be following my own destiny and making my own rules and making my own decisions without the input of anybody else. Because in a band, that's the way it works, which is great. I love bands. I love being in a band. And I've been in a band since I was 15. But I think I just came to a point where for once I just needed to do something that had no outside input, And I've done it, and I think it helped me to see what I was able to achieve on my own, and also to be able to work with a lot of really great artists and be able to write my material without having to, sort of do the group thing where, you write a riff and the other guy writes the bridge, and that, which is all great and it makes for great material, but I just wanted to see what would happen if I didn't have anybody help me to do anything. And except for the vocals, right? And it was a lot of fun, probably one of the most fun I've had in a recording situation in my whole career, just doing that. A couple different things. Good question though. I think it wasn't that I thought about, I want to do this and I want to do that, but being that it's a solo record and have given all that freedom, I could do whatever I wanted. So I could write songs that I normally wouldn't feel comfortable delivering to the band because it might not fit. A rock band has a certain boundaries stylistically, and so it gave me an opportunity to just be able to record anything that I felt like recording. And I had always intended to have a different singer on every song, but because the material was so varied, it made me think outside the box for singers to go with the material. That's why you have guys like Adam Levine on there, which probably surprised everybody, and then going from, say, Lemmy to Iggy Pop to Ian Astbury to Miles Kennedy, all different sort of singers for different types of rock and roll songs. I write the music first and then think who would sound good on that piece of music. So, in other words, I always use this as an example, but it's a good example, was I wrote the music for Crucify the Dead, and I was like, that is an Ozzy song. I never thought of anybody else to sing that song. Same with Lemmy, same with most of the songs on the record. It was like, this sounds like Chris Cornell would be great on this, And I just went with my gut feeling. I really like Wolf Mother. I think Avenged Sevenfold is awesome. I actually wasn't very familiar with Alter Bridge. Miles, yeah. Miles was the only guy on the record, two singers on the record that I wasn't real familiar with at first. Rocco DeLuca, right? Who was great, and I'd written that music and I couldn't think who would sing it. And I was looking for a type of voice, and I mentioned earlier something like Tom York, like that kind of high voice, but I didn't want to go after Tom York. It seemed like too much of a pain in the ass. So someone introduced me to Rocco DeLuca's music, and I'd never heard him before, and I was like, that's the voice that I'm looking for, so I contacted him. But the last guy that I worked with on the record was Miles Kennedy, and I'd heard of him. I know that Matt had tried to get him into Velvet Revolver, and I'd never heard of him before at that point. So I saw Alter Bridge on YouTube, and I heard him singing. I thought, wow, he does have a good voice. And then later on, when I was at the very tail end of making the record, I had these 2 songs that I couldn't figure out who should sing them. So I thought, well, what about that Miles Kennedy guy? And I took a chance on it, and I sent him one of the pieces of music, and he came back and sent back to me Starlight. And Starlight's one of the songs on the record, and his voice was phenomenal. I was like, wow, you know. So then he flew out and he recorded the real track for the record. And we hung out and we got to know each other for a while. And so I asked him to sing this other piece of music that I had that I couldn't figure out before who to sing. And he did Back from Cali. And I was like, man, do you want to do this tour that I'm doing? Because I was auditioning singers for this tour that I'm on right now. And fortunately, he was on a break from Alter Bridge. And so we're doing it. And so now at this point, I'm familiar with Alter Bridge. And we actually do an Alter Bridge song on the record. Yeah, I mean, when you start working with the caliber of singers that I invited to play on this record, there's no reason for me to dictate what they should do, you know? I provided them with the music, and they had the freedom to change the arrangement. Maybe we'd sit down and work on some different parts, like with Andrew Stockdale. I gave him the music, and he came back to me with a chorus. Right, and we sat with acoustic and we rewrote the song with a new chorus, and that would, you know, so it was always an open canvas for the singer. It's really a showcase for the singers more than it is a showcase for me. You know? The lyrics are really an extension of each singer, you know. So they had whatever it was that they felt like writing about was what they wrote about. I had no real influence on that per se. Maybe I might have helped out with a word here or a word there, but really the concept of every song was uniquely each singer's.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not really. The only singer, and I haven't mentioned this in interviews too much because I don't like names to go around. So the only singers I didn't work with that I liked, I couldn't get because there was a contractual situation where I couldn't release the material on my record, and I was like, fuck, you know. So, but I ended up, one of those songs, it just ended up not getting used. The other one wasn't because of contract, it was because of time. It was just taking too long, so I was like, fuck it, I gotta move on. So I got somebody else to do it, but it ended up being the right decision, so. That's a good question. The oldest song on the record, musically, I would say is probably Ghost. Because I wrote that for Velvet Revolver before Scott came into the picture.
That's why you play with Dizzy?
No, it wasn't that old. But I just thought it would sound, it's a very much a Slash riff, you know, and I just thought after we recorded the song and Ian did his vocal, I thought, you know, this would sound really cool with Izzy playing on it. And so I called Izzy, and Izzy came down and he put a guitar on it, so it was pretty cool. I mean, we just have been listening and we haven't made any decisions. And so next year, sometime around like maybe February.
Maybe Miles Kennedy now.
Huh?
Maybe Miles Kennedy.
Everybody wants that to happen, but it's just not going to happen. He already turned it down once.
Okay.
That was a great session. That was fucking fun. One of my sort of relatives lives here in Italy, right? And she told me about Vasco, and I was like, I don't know who he is. And she goes, you should play with him. He's huge in Italy. And I was like, yeah. I just didn't know. So then, like a year later, finally, somebody else contacted me, and I said, okay, let me check this Vasco guy out. And so I heard him, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I got to see some on YouTube or something, these big, huge concerts that he was doing. And so I ended up going, okay, let's hear what the song is that he wants to do. And so they sent it to me, and I was like, okay, I can play on this. And the session was in Los Angeles, and I got to meet Vasco and all his people. And it was really a lot of fun. It was very cool. And the drummer was the drummer for one of my Snake Pit bands. So Matt Log, yeah, it was very cool.
You know what? It turned out that I just ripped one of the machine heads off. So it fared. We made it through the next gig with it. Okay, so it's good.
Hey, I'm Slash, and you're listening to Rock and Roll Radio.